Hello, I'm Marina Kim and you're watching the news from Kazakhstan. Family members of Kazakhstan's political prisoners arrived to Warsaw to tell the OSCE about the domestic justice tyranny during the roundtable organized by the Civic Activity Fund.
Public figures and politicians negatively assessed the Kazakh judicial system during an OSCE meeting in Warsaw. While the official delegation from Astana assured their European colleagues that the domestic judiciary is just fine, some completely different information was presented by the Kazakh Public Fund Civic Activity. Rozhana Sergeyeva knows firsthand how courts operate in Kazakhstan, as her husband Ramazan Sergeyeva, the chief editor of the newspaper Almaty Info, has been serving a term in the colony for already 1.5 years. My arrival certainly irritated the official delegation. The Supreme Court Judge Baishov said that we're not lawyers but individuals with separate cases. I want to emphasize that these very cases make the judicial system of Kazakhstan what it is. The trials of Zhovtis, Jakishov and Kozlov were very telling, as according to human rights defenders they featured numerous procedural irregularities, biased judges and unjustifiably strict sentences. Western human rights activists asked Kazakhs to take notice of the politically motivated trials, and the same request was voiced again in Poland. It is unclear if Kazakhstan has no problems with the justice, why nobody can publicly explain the reasons why Zhovtis, Kozlov and Sergeyeva are still imprisoned. Poland has also faced problems with the legal system, said Senator of the Polish Parliament Zbigniew Romaszewski. The situation in Kazakhstan, however, is much more complicated, as the number of political processes is growing and people fear the judicial tyranny, while the justice has become a tool in the authorities' fight against dissidents.
Until recently, it was impossible to imagine that a country with such judicial system and approach to human rights could lead a major organization and a serious forum on human rights. Why this has become normal? Unfortunately, I cannot say that I see any progress in this area. What I see is human rights being sold for material values and economic contracts.
Nevertheless, the official delegation of Kazakhstan refused to even acknowledge the problem's existence. Judge Zholumbet Baishov asked not to pay attention to the individual cases. According to participants of the meeting, this approach once again demonstrated that the gap between Kazakh civil society and the government continues to widen.
To continue the topic of questionable justice, the General Prosecutor's Office informs that the former Emergency Minister Ablay Sabdalin, previously sentenced to 10 years for bribery and abuse of power, is now appealing the court decision. Attorneys inform that since the verdict has not yet entered into force, the criminal case will be reviewed by the appeals body. The complaint to Astana City Court is ready, but the defenders will not ask for additional expert evaluations, as they are absolutely sure of their client's innocence. Sabdalin was accused of giving a bribe of $45,000 as well as committing tender frauds. Allegedly, while in the position of the chairman of the competition committee, the official lobbied the interests of some companies. The court sentenced him to 10 years in a maximum security colony with the confiscation of property, while Sabdalin pleaded not guilty.
We completely disagree with the ruling. The court delivered its verdict without any evidence. There were no fingerprints and they will not likely to appear. Any reasonable doubt should benefit the defendant. If there is no opportunity to hold an examination, the court should proceed with information that there are no fingerprints available. The Constitution actually stipulates this, but the question is why the court did not take this into account.
Yermek Narymbayev will remain under arrest pending charges. On May 19th, the Almaty City Court left intact the decision of the Bostandyk District Court to deny Narymbayev's release for the duration of all investigation activities.
Narymbayev was sentenced to 15 days in jail for organizing a May Day demonstration. On that day, he supposedly pushed a policeman in an administrative court and was consequently charged for resisting an officer. On May 14th, the Bostandyk court sanctioned the activist's arrest and Narymbayev was transferred from the administrative detention facility to an isolation ward. The attorney's appeal has been already submitted.
At the moment, Yermek is in the isolation ward, as the investigator wants to advance some additional charges and waits for the decision of the prosecutor. The investigation will likely continue tomorrow.
The State International Institute has released its rating of the most corrupt organizations in Kazakhstan, which was immediately denounced by the customs officials. They were poorly evaluated by the population, along with border guards and traffic policemen.
If you have any questions to the traffic police, you can ask them in the bus.
Kazakh International Institute published a rating of the most corrupt state bodies, where the traffic police and customs service were named the worst offenders by some 1,500 people polled in April throughout the country. The Almaty Traffic Police acknowledged the data and attempt to fight the corruption by launching monthly campaigns called Public Lobby on Wheels.
Corrupt policemen are called to responsibility all the time. They are issued administrative penalties, given disciplinary and severe reprimands, and even completely dismissed from the force or criminally prosecuted. We do not deny the cases of corruption, but we are fighting hard against them.
Businessman Anaratayev shares the analyst's opinion as he has experienced the police injustice firsthand.
Затем сотрудник ППС, старший лейтенант.
A traffic policeman demanded $1,000 from my friend. When asked for the reason, the officer said he will call a squad and detain us for driving under influence. I refused to give him the money as I simply didn't have the amount and there were no violation at all.
Выводили автомобиль в нетрезвом состоянии.
The lobby on wheels did not help Atayev as policemen refused to look into the problem and directed the businessman to the traffic police office.
You may go there. There is no need to wait for anyone to write a complaint.
Unlike the traffic police and businessmen, representatives of the customs do not trust the report's results.
When did they get these numbers? In the rating of the ruling party, we didn't even make the top 3.
Kanish Aktayev maintains his own statistics as he always has a camera ready to record conversations with the law enforcement agents. This always discourages policemen to take bribes and can help during possible trials.
If you're filming officers, they will never even hint about the bribes.
Aktayev uploads his videos on the internet and believes that only public control can be effective in the fight against the corruption.
Apparently wrongful dismissals are a very common practice for the Almaty region, as numerous violations of the labor code are reported here frequently. This time, however, the prosecution sided with fired employees of a sugar factory and even fined the head of the enterprise.
Employees of the sugar factory in the village of Karabulak in the Almaty region are trying to prove in the court that their dismissal was illegal and are asking for a compensation for the 6-month-long forced vacation. Back in December, Alexander Pagodin, Denis Silnyagin and Alexander Tukin asked the management for a single day of unpaid leave needed to collect their salaries from the nearby village factory, as their own enterprise was idle. The request was granted by 3 superiors of the workers.
If any of them told us not to go, we would have stayed. It is obvious we were fired for nothing.
On the same day, the workers were fired in accordance with some new rules, as apparently the request should have been signed personally by the director. Interestingly, Bulat Mukatov himself works at the nearby sugar factory as a financial director.
I would have signed the request even post factum if there was no lie, but they did skip working hours. How should I know where they've been? What if they went fishing?
The regional prosecutor's office took the side of the workers, as the supervisory authority considers the dismissal too harsh of a punishment. Why nobody looked into the validity of the disciplinary action? After all, the employees went to collect paycheck, and this is important enough reason. The president of the sugar factory in Karabulak was fined $200 for illegal dismissal of his employees, although Bulat Mukatov has yet to pay the money. The court ordered him to comply with the prosecutor's office decision and scheduled the final hearing for May 20th.